This is the story of Claire Morgan, a story of a house, a town, and the shadows no one dares to name. Claire had always wanted a quiet place to start over. After the chaos of the city and a relationship that left her drained, she packed her car and drove until the highways thinned into dirt roads. That's when she found it. Hollow Creek. A small town tucked between endless woods and rolling hills, where the air smelled of pine and the streets fell silent after dusk. The house was waiting for her at the edge of the forest. It stood tall but weary, its windows clouded with dust, its paint peeling in long, tired strips. The porch sagged under years of neglect. Yet when the realtor handed her the keys, Claire felt something stir inside her. It was cheap. It was hers. And despite its haunted look, she convinced herself it could be a home. Her first night, she lit a single lamp and sat on the floor with a box of takeout. The silence was heavy, too heavy. In the city, silence never existed. There were sirens, arguments, footsteps on the street. Here, there was only the sound of trees brushing against one another in the wind. She told herself it was peaceful. But sometime after midnight, she heard it, a faint tapping. 3 knocks, coming from the basement door. Claire froze. She hadn't even been down there yet. The realtor had brushed it off. Old storage, nothing worth seeing. She held her breath, waiting. The sound didn't come again. Old houses make noises, she whispered to herself, though her voice trembled. The next morning, she walked into town for groceries. Hollow Creek had only one main street, lined with a diner, a hardware store, and a small grocery shop. The locals glanced at her with curiosity, their conversations dipping into silence as she passed. At the counter, the cashier, an older woman with sharp eyes, scanned Claire's items without a word. Then softly she said, "That house on Hollow Creek Road. You should keep the doors locked at night." Claire blinked. Sorry. What do you mean?" The woman's mouth tightened, her gaze never lifting. "You'll see soon enough." The walk back felt longer. The trees leaned close, their branches like skeletal fingers tangling above her. That night, she unpacked her typewriter and tried to work. Writing had always been her escape, but when she sat down, the lamp flickered, then steadied. Her hands hovered over the keys, but no words came. Only the sound of faint dragging, like fingernails trailing across the walls. Her chest tightened. She grabbed a flashlight and followed the sound. It led her to the basement door. The handle gleamed faintly in the lamplight, as if waiting. Claire whispered, "Don't be ridiculous. It's just mice." She opened the door. The smell hit her first, damp wood and something metallic. The stairs groaned as she descended. Her light cut through the dark, revealing old crates, broken furniture, and cobwebs thick as curtains. She let out a shaky breath. Nothing unusual, nothing wrong. But then, her beam caught something on the far wall. A handprint, large, fresh, streaked in something dark. Claire stumbled back, the light shaking in her hand. She scrambled up the stairs, slammed the door, and locked it. The rest of the night, she sat awake on the couch, whispering to herself, "It's nothing. Just dirt. Just old stains." But deep down, she knew better. The next day, she went back to the diner, desperate for normal conversation. She sat at the counter and ordered coffee. The waitress, a young woman with dark hair tied in a messy bun, gave her a quick smile. "You're staying at the Hollow Creek house, right?" Claire's stomach tightened. Yeah. Why? The waitress leaned closer, lowering her voice. Most people don't last long there. Families come, but they always leave. Some faster than others. Claire tried to laugh it off. Because of bad plumbing and creaky floors? But the waitress didn't laugh. Because of what's underneath. Before Claire could press, the cook banged a pan, and the waitress straightened, ending the conversation. That night, the dreams began. Claire found herself standing in the basement, the air thick and damp. She could hear whispers all around her, voices overlapping, men, women, children. Their words blurred, but the tone was desperate, pleading. A shadow moved along the wall, tall and thin, bending in ways that weren't human. When she woke, sweat drenched her sheets. She tried to tell herself it was just her imagination, just stress from moving. But when she went downstairs, the basement door stood wide open. She was sure she had locked it. And on the floor leading into the kitchen, a trail of wet footprints glistened under the morning light. Small, childlike. Claire's breath caught in her throat. She whispered, "No. That's not possible." She backed away, her heart hammering until her shoulder hit the wall. Something brushed past her ear, cold and sharp as ice. She spun around, but nothing was there. Only silence. Only the sound of her own ragged breathing. That was when she realized whatever lived in Hollow Creek had already stepped inside her house. Claire tried to convince herself to stay calm. She told herself it had to be some trick of memory, that maybe she forgot to lock the door. Maybe the footprints were just water she tracked in without realizing. But no excuse truly fit. Deep down, she knew it. The next days passed slowly. She tried to distract herself, unpacking, writing, walking through the town. But the locals were no comfort. They were polite but distant. Conversations always seemed to stop when she approached. Eyes lingered on her a moment too long. At the diner, the same waitress finally gave her a warning. "If you hear it," she said quietly while pouring Claire's coffee, "don't answer." Claire frowned. "Hear what?" The waitress hesitated, then whispered, "Knocking. From the basement. Don't open the door. Don't answer." Claire's stomach twisted. "Why?" The girl only shook her head. "Just don't." That night, Claire sat on her couch with every light in the house on. Midnight crept in heavy and cold. She tried reading, anything to keep her mind busy. Then, as if on cue, it came. Knock, knock, knock. From the basement door. Her blood ran cold. The sound was slow, deliberate, not like random creaks or pipes. It was knuckles on wood. Someone or something waiting. Her throat tightened. She whispered, "It's not real. It's not real." The knocking stopped. But when she dared a glance toward the hallway, the basement door was open again. Wide. She dropped the book and stumbled back. Her breath came in shallow gasps. The light above her flickered, buzzing, then went dark. Only moonlight filled the room, silver and thin. From the darkness of the basement came a voice, small, childlike. "Claire, help us." Her knees buckled. She slammed the door and locked it, pressing her weight against it until the voice faded. Sleep never came. The following morning, Claire marched to the town library. She wasn't going to spend another night blind to whatever was happening. The library was small, shelves of dusty books and records stacked high. The librarian, an older man with tired eyes, watched her carefully as she asked, "Do you have anything on the Hollow Creek house? History? Records?" He hesitated, then led her to a back corner. Old newspapers, yellowed and brittle, waited in boxes. Claire dug through them, heart pounding. The headlines chilled her. Family of 4 missing in Hollow Creek house. Search called off, no clues found. Locals report strange noises near property. Over and over, the house was tied to vanishings. Families, couples, even a drifter who had squatted there. All gone. No bodies ever found. Claire's hands shook as she folded the papers back. "How many?" she whispered. The librarian's voice was low. "Too many." She pressed. "What happened to them?" His eyes darkened. "The house keeps what it wants." Claire left with the words burning in her ears. Back home, the air felt heavier, like the house knew she had learned its secret. The walls seemed to breathe. The silence pressed down on her chest. That night, she tried to sleep in the upstairs bedroom. She locked the door, pulled the covers tight, and told herself she was safe. But at 3 a.m, she woke to the sound of whispers. Dozens of voices just outside her door. Male, female, young, old. Their words bled together, impossible to understand. She covered her ears. The whispers grew louder. The doorknob rattled. Her heart hammered as she screamed, "Leave me alone!" Suddenly, silence. She sat trembling in bed until dawn. When morning came, she found something on the floor outside her room. A slip of paper, yellowed and brittle, as if torn from an old diary. In shaky handwriting, it read, "Don't open the basement. Don't let them in." Claire clutched the note, her hands trembling. Someone had been here. Someone had left her this warning. But who? That evening, she forced herself to return to the basement. She couldn't keep running from it. The stairs groaned under her weight as she descended again, flashlight shaking in her grip. The air was colder this time. Damp, heavy. Her beam swept across the floor, the crates, the cobwebs, and then movement. In the far corner, a shadow shifted. Long, thin, stretching up the wall, though nothing stood there to cast it. Claire froze. Her chest tightened. The shadow bent, twisted, and then, slowly, it raised an arm. Knock, knock, knock. On the inside of the basement wall. Claire staggered back, her voice cracking. "Stay away from me!" But the sound came again, louder, closer. The wall itself seemed to shudder under the force. She bolted upstairs, slamming the door and locking it tight. Tears stung her eyes as she whispered, "I can't stay here. I can't." But even as she packed a bag, even as she told herself she would leave by morning, something inside her knew the truth. The house wasn't going to let her go so easily. Claire didn't sleep. She sat by the front window all night, watching the tree line for any movement, gripping the packed bag in her lap. She promised herself that as soon as the sun rose, she would leave Hollow Creek behind. But when dawn broke, something was wrong. The bag she had packed was gone. She searched every corner of the living room, the hallway, the kitchen. Nothing. Her clothes, her keys, even her wallet, vanished. Her hands shook as she whispered, "No, No, this isn't possible. She bolted to the front door. The lock turned, but the door wouldn't open. It was as if the wood itself had fused with the frame. She shoved, kicked, slammed her shoulder against it, but it didn't budge. Trapped. Claire backed away, her breath ragged. The windows were her next thought. She rushed to the nearest one and tried to lift it, but the frame was sealed tight. She grabbed a chair and hurled it at the glass. The chair bounced off as if the window were solid stone. Not a crack. Her scream filled the empty house, and then, from behind her, came a soft laugh. She spun. The living room was empty, but the sound lingered, faint and echoing, as though it came from the walls themselves. The house was alive, watching her. For the next 2 days, Claire lived in terror. The food in her kitchen spoiled overnight. The water from the tap ran black and thick. Every time she closed her eyes, she felt something standing over her, breathing cold air against her skin. On the third night, the knocking returned. Not from the basement door this time, from the walls of her bedroom. Slow, steady, like a heartbeat. She pressed her hands against her ears, rocking back and forth. Stop. Please stop. The knocking grew louder, faster, and then the whispers came back. Claire, let us in. We're so cold. Tears streamed down her face as she screamed, "What do you want from me?" The voices answered together, one chilling chorus. Stay. The next morning, she found another slip of paper on her nightstand. This one fresher, the ink darker, the handwriting jagged. They won't let you go. But there's a way. Her heart pounded as she clutched it. A way? A way out? At the bottom, scrawled in frantic strokes, was a single sentence. The truth is in the basement. Claire's stomach dropped. The basement. The one place she swore she would never go again. But by nightfall, she couldn't resist. She had no choice. She armed herself with the heaviest flashlight she owned and crept down the stairs once more. The air was colder than ever, her breath visible in the beam of light. The basement seemed emptier than before, though she couldn't explain why. The crates and broken furniture looked smaller, swallowed by shadows. And then she saw it. In the center of the floor was a hatch, a square of wood she hadn't noticed before, as though it hadn't been there until now. The edges were lined with nails, but the wood was old, splintered. Her hands trembled as she pulled. The hatch groaned, the smell of damp earth rushing out. A ladder descended into darkness. Her instincts screamed to run, but something deeper, something she couldn't name, pulled her down. Step by step, she climbed into the dark. The air was thick, wet, suffocating. When her feet hit the dirt floor, she swung the light around. What she saw stole the breath from her lungs. Dozens of objects hung from the ceiling. Children's shoes, broken toys, rusted jewelry, faded photographs. And beneath them, carved into the dirt walls, were handprints. Hundreds of them, small, large, overlapping, as if generations of people had clawed at the earth, trying to escape. Claire stumbled back, gagging. Her light fell on something in the far corner. A figure. It crouched low, its body too thin, its limbs too long, its face hidden in shadow. When the beam touched it, it slowly lifted its head. Eyes. pale and glowing, like the reflection of the moon on water. Claire's voice cracked. "What are you?" The figure smiled, lips peeling back too wide, and then it spoke, not in one voice but in many. The same chorus from her nightmares. "We are Hollow Creek." The light flickered. The figure moved, impossibly fast, closer now, its hand stretching out. Not skin, not bone, but shadow solidified into shape. Claire screamed and scrambled up the ladder, slamming the hatch shut just as the first impact shook the wood. She collapsed on the floor above, gasping, tears streaming down her face. The basement echoed with pounding, louder, harder, shaking the walls. Then silence. Claire lay there until dawn, broken and trembling. She knew she couldn't last much longer. The house wanted her, and it would never let her go. Claire didn't leave her bed the next day. She lay still, staring at the ceiling, the note clenched in her hand. The truth is in the basement. She couldn't erase those words. She couldn't forget the glowing eyes, the chorus of voices that claimed to be Hollow Creek. By nightfall, she knew she couldn't stay frozen. If she didn't act, the house would consume her. So she lit every candle she owned, surrounding herself in a shaky circle of light. She opened her notebook and wrote, not for her novel, but a message. If someone finds this, please know, I didn't imagine it. This house is alive. The voices, the shadows, the basement, they are real. I don't know if I'll survive tonight, but maybe you will. Don't stay, don't listen, don't go below. Her pen dropped. A sound answered from downstairs. Not knocking this time. Singing. Low, broken voices rising from beneath the floor. A lullaby. The kind her mother used to hum when she was small. The melody was cracked, wrong, stretched into something inhuman. Claire grabbed her flashlight and the note. Her legs shook, but she forced herself down the stairs. The basement hatch pulsed faintly in the candlelight, as if it were breathing. She could hear the voices clearer now, layered, beckoning. Her whisper cracked. "You want me down there?" "Fine." She yanked the hatch open. The ladder descended into the void again. The smell of earth and rot clawed at her throat. This time she carried salt, a lighter, and the single matchbook she'd found in the kitchen drawer. She had read once that salt and fire kept away evil. It was all she had. Step by step, she descended. The objects hanging from the ceiling swayed gently, though there was no wind. The photographs shifted as if unseen fingers stroked them. The handprints in the dirt seemed deeper, fresher. The figure was waiting. Its eyes glowed in the dark, brighter now, reflecting the light of her shaking flashlight. Its mouth spread wide, rows of jagged teeth visible at last. "Claire," the voices hissed together. "Stay." She forced her trembling hand into the bag of salt and scattered it in a circle around her. Her voice cracked. "I'm not yours. Do you hear me? I don't belong to you." The figure tilted its head. The whispers grew louder, echoing in her skull, words tumbling over each other. "We were here before you. We are the walls, the soil, the air you breathe. You are already ours." Her flashlight sputtered. Darkness swallowed the far corners of the room. Shapes moved within it, dozens of them. Faces pale and hollow, bodies twisted, hands clawing at the dirt. The lost. The vanished. The family Sarah had whispered about in the diner. Claire's scream broke the silence. She lit the match, dropping it into the salt circle. Flames burst to life, weak but real. The shadows recoiled, shrieking in unison, their voices rattling the earth. The figure lunged, slamming against the barrier of flame. Its face shifted, flickering between human and something else entirely. Claire shouted over the roar, "You'll never have me!" The house shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. The ladder rattled, threatening to collapse. In a final desperate act, Claire hurled the flashlight into the shadows. The bulb shattered, sparks igniting the hanging objects. Photographs curled in the flames, toys melted, shoes blackened. The chamber filled with fire. The figures screamed, a chorus of agony. The glowing eyes vanished one by one, swallowed by the blaze. The main figure staggered back, its body unraveling into smoke and ash. Claire scrambled up the ladder as fire consumed the basement. She slammed the hatch shut behind her, coughing, gasping, her body shaking with terror. The floor burned beneath her feet. The walls groaned, splintering, the house itself wailing as if alive. She ran. Through the living room, past the sealed front door that now burst open with a thunderous crack. The air outside hit her lungs like freedom. She stumbled into the yard, collapsing in the wet grass as the house behind her screamed. Flames shot from the windows, black smoke curling into the night sky. The neighbors arrived minutes later, drawn by the fire. They watched in silence as the old house burned to its bones, their faces pale, eyes dark. No one helped her. When the house finally collapsed in a heap of glowing embers, Claire sat shaking, covered in soot, tears streaming down her face. She whispered again and again, "It's over. It has to be over." But as the last wall fell, she saw something. In the smoke rising from the ashes, dozens of pale faces stared back at her. And in the whisper of the flames, one final word echoed, "Stay."